The forecast discussion for July 8th, 2014 is currently 9:30 a.m. and it is rather muggy out there with temperatures in the lower to mid 70s over the northern interior, upper 70s to lower 80s in the New York City metropolitan area, and lower to mid 80s in the Philadelphia metropolitan area. Temperatures already feel like they're in the mid to upper 80s with all the humidity in the atmosphere. After all, we have dew points in the mid to upper 60s in the northern interior and upper 60s to lower 70s everywhere else, on a southwesterly wind at around 5 to 15 miles per hour. Now, there's going to be a threat for strong to severe thunderstorms with this tropical air mass in place and, of course, a cold front approaching from the west. When we take a look at the latest surface map, you can see this very clearly. This strong dynamic cold front approaching the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area. It's well out here over the central Great Lakes and back towards the Mississippi River Valley. But this cold front is going to move quickly towards the region today. And as it does so, by this evening, it will produce widespread strong to severe thunderstorms. And as we saw yesterday, those thunderstorms will be capable of frequent deadly lightning, wind gusts over 60 miles per hour, small hail, and of course very heavy downpours, leading to the potential for localized flash flooding. Now, currently the SPC suggests that the best potential for these severe thunderstorms will be to our west, and that's mostly due to timing of this cold front, because it's going to be moving through, let's say, around 8, 9 o'clock tonight. So obviously the best instability and the best dynamics will be focused to our west towards central Pennsylvania and up towards the Mohawk River Valley and then up towards New England, especially around the eastern Great Lakes, based on the timing of this cold front. But do not let your guard down this evening with these thunderstorms, as they could be rather impressive. On the current radar, well, here we are out here in the Ohio River Valley. We're pretty much high and dry out here in the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area. These disturbances are not reaching the ground, and if they are, they're only producing a little sprinkle here and there. Really not anything of concern, but they are a warning sign, because these little tiny disturbances are going to create boundaries in the atmosphere. And these boundaries could enhance this thunderstorm complex or weaken it, depending on how they interact. So as always with mesoscale meteorology, you always have to kind of nowcast and see how these thunderstorms interact with these leftover boundaries that are in place because of these dying thunderstorm clusters that we have out here over Pennsylvania. So it's going to definitely be an interesting afternoon and evening throughout the region because of these boundaries and because of what's approaching from the west. On the latest infrared satellite picture, you could see that cold front approaching, and I mean, really these disturbances are rather dynamic. Now, what we're going to be watching for is that as this fans out, notice it really exploded last night, okay? And that's because of what's called a nocturnal jet, around 850 millibars or so. So what happens is that these thunderstorms weaken, they collapse, they spread out, and they create these little boundaries, like this one right here. So what we're going to watch is to see whether other thunderstorms start to develop out ahead of the main cold front this afternoon along these type of boundaries, and see whether that evolves and really drives this cold front to the east faster than what's expected. So there's a lot of little influences in the atmosphere that are showing up this morning that we really have to keep an eye on for this afternoon that could enhance the thunderstorm threat for this evening for eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, southeastern New York and Connecticut, of course the northern mid-Atlantic. I'm really concerned about eastern Pennsylvania though, because they're going to be closest to the best dynamics and they'll have the earliest influence of these thunderstorms with all of the instability in the atmosphere. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on moving forward for this afternoon and evening. See this out here? All this clear skies? That's our weekend on the way. So there is hope. Once we get past Wednesday, we get out of this really hot and humid, sticky air mass, and we start to move into one that's very comfortable, very enjoyable, and one that I think that everyone's going to really appreciate for this weekend. I mean, who doesn't appreciate lower to mid 80s with lower humidity? On the latest water vapor satellite picture, I want to use this to kind of show the whole evolution of the pattern. We're starting to see a redevelopment of a trough to the south of the Aleutians. That is going to be a big deal, especially for next week, with a very cool air mass on the way throughout the, well, all of eastern United States. I'll show you in just a moment. It's a really impressive trough. Meanwhile, we have our disturbances diving south through the Great Lakes towards the east coast. You can see this one's really impressive, and we got more disturbances on the way, all the way up from the Arctic Circle all the way down through the Great Lakes and heading right towards our neck of the woods. And oh, by the way, here's what's left of Hurricane Arthur, spinning up here around Greenland and over northeastern Canada, creating havoc for those individuals. Much weaker, of course, though. So let's take a look at the latest model guidance. So for this afternoon, again, we're going to be watching the threat for showers and thunderstorms, and some of those thunderstorms could be severe. We'll have high temperatures in the lower to mid 90s in your urban locations, mid to upper 80s right along the coast, upper 80s to lower 90s over the interior. For tomorrow, rinse and repeat with the threat for showers and thunderstorms. I don't think it's going to be as widespread because the cold front, the strongest cold front is going to move through. So the change in the atmosphere is already starting to evolve. So at this point, the thunderstorms should be a little bit weaker. They'll be more widely scattered rather than widespread like it will be this evening based on what we're seeing in the guidance here. And the temperatures will not be as hot. Now, the morning lows will be in the lower to mid 70s. It's still going to feel muggy and disgusting out there. High temperatures throughout the region in the upper 80s to lower 90s. Lower to mid 80s right over Long Island. More because of that southwesterly wind and influence from the Atlantic. By the time we get to Thursday, though, high pressure starts to take control. We start to clear out with sky cloud cover. Low temperatures are going to be in the mid to upper 60s rather than around the 70s. And high temperatures will be in the mid 80s. The dew points will fall back into the upper 50s in the afternoon, and that is going to be something that you're definitely going to feel out there with much lower humidity, a far more comfortable atmosphere overall to be outside in. By the time we get to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, high pressure is in complete control with tranquil weather conditions, low temperatures in the mid to upper 60s, high temperatures in the mid 80s. Again, a very, very comfortable and enjoyable weekend is on the way. Then it gets interesting for early next week. Look at this trough starting to develop over the eastern United States. Now, on Monday, we could warm up into the upper 80s to low 90s ahead of this powerful cold front. Still debating to see whether we actually get that hot because we're also going to be dealing with showers and thunderstorms. But then take a look at the forecast for days 8, 9, and 10. Look at this trough. Now that is impressive. And you want to know what's even more impressive? Look at the wind pattern here. It's coming right from the Arctic, right down through the Hudson Bay, down into the Great Lakes, and right into our neck of the woods. Again, a direct connection from the Arctic. You don't really see this in the summer. This is pretty impressive. And as a result, some very chilly temperatures invading the northern plains, the Great Lakes, New England, and of course the northern Mid-Atlantic. And all that hot and humid, uncomfortable weather is suppressed well to the south over the southeast and Gulf Coast, where frankly they could keep it. And a very impressive upper level low is basically locked in over the eastern United States with some very chilly weather conditions on the way for the plains, for the Great Lakes, for the northern Mid-Atlantic, and for New England. So if you like cool weather in the summer, you're about to get it, and in a big way. I would not be surprised with this type of weather pattern setting in that next week we have high temperatures only in the 70s. Remember, that's our low temperatures right now. That could be our high temperatures by next week. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this and see how this evolves. That's your forecast discussion for today. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Follow the latest weather information at nynjpaweather.com and nynjpaweather on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and LinkedIn. Have a wonderful day, and as always, stay safe out there.